You are listening to the Mineral Rights Podcast, Episode 1. Today I'll be covering why I created this podcast, what you can expect in future episodes, and I'll be telling you a little bit more about my background. So let's get started.
Are you ready to make the most of your oil and gas mineral rights? Welcome to the Mineral Rights Podcast. Get the knowledge and resources you need to manage your minerals and royalties. Here is your host, Matt Sands.
Hi everyone, my name is Matt Sands and I want to thank you for listening to this very first episode of the Mineral Rights Podcast. I'll be providing useful information to help fellow mineral rights and royalty owners and everyone who's looking for more information on this topic and in oil and gas in general. One of the things I'm most excited about is the fact that this is the very first podcast about mineral rights and royalty interests. So for you, this means that you can listen and learn while you do your daily activities like commute to work, walk your dog, work out. If this will be helpful to you, then keep listening and I'll cover a bit of what you can expect and I'll tell you a little bit about the host, me. Each episode will start with a brief introduction about the chosen topic or some information on the background of the guests that I will be interviewing. We'll then jump right into the content for the week and cover key pieces of information that will help you manage your mineral rights or give you knowledge to understand how oil and gas development might affect you. To give you a feel for a few of the upcoming topics and ideas that I'm working on, I'm going to go through a list of things that I've got in the queue, so to speak. And the first one is really talking about starting from the beginning and what are the different property types, surface rights, and how is that different from mineral rights, and how mineral rights get severed from surface rights. What are the different types of conveyance documents or ways to transfer ownership, understanding oil and gas leases and what to look out for, what is a division order and why it'll become one of your favorite documents to get in the mail, how to calculate your net revenue interest in a well and how to estimate the royalty payments you'll receive, different ways that producing and non-producing minerals are valued. In other words, how much are your minerals actually worth? And then we'll also go through the plethora of websites and tools that can help you manage your minerals and to get information in your area. Also have some guests in those areas that'll get into depth into those topics and folks that are, experts in the field that can really help us manage our minerals. So I want to share a little bit about why I created this podcast. I have been an avid podcast listener for a long time, and in my previous job, I spent countless hours traveling, and I really liked the podcast as a way to pass the time and as a really awesome communication medium, if you want to learn about a new subject or just be entertained. Since I am really big about continuing to learn, when I switched direction in my career to go full-time in minerals management, I looked everywhere for more information, and I was really surprised that there weren't any podcasts out there that covered this topic that affects so many people in the U.S. And I also found that I had some trouble finding information I need in order to fill my own information and knowledge gaps. And so I thought there had to be a better way. And in reading posts to forums and my conversation with others, I found there were others who had the same challenge that I did. In fact, I see a lot of the same questions getting asked in online forums time and time again. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that there's really limited access to information out there. And oil and gas is a field that requires a lot of specialized training in order to perform an accurate and detailed appraisal and evaluation of what a property is worth. So this leaves mineral owners really struggling to know what to do when they get, the offer letter in the mail to buy their minerals or to lease. They don't really know, is it a good offer or not? And unfortunately, this knowledge gap often leaves an opportunity for unscrupulous buyers to take advantage of trusting mineral owners. And there are definitely plenty of honest and upstanding folks in the business, but like any industry, we have our share of folks looking to take advantage of unsuspecting people. How do you protect yourself? That was the big problem that I saw. And it was from this desire to help other mineral and royalty owners find the information that they previously didn't have access to that really drove me to start this podcast. and just provide a source of information that you can use to help make an informed decision. Okay, so now you know why I created the Mineral Rights Podcast. Let me tell you a little bit more about me. My name is Matt Sands, and I was born in Colorado and grew up living between Denver and Houston, Texas. After I graduated high school, I went to school at the Colorado School of Mines in Golden, Colorado, where I graduated with an engineering degree at the age of 22 and went to work for one of the largest oil and gas companies in the planet. And I spent the next 16 years with that company and served in various engineering, planning, and leadership roles that spanned from about as far upstream as you can go in terms of research and development on unconventional resources to as far downstream as you could go in managing the maintenance and engineering for company-owned retail gas stations in two of the major West Coast markets. So I've seen a lot of everything, kind of a jack of all trades in the oil and gas industry, so to speak. It was a great company to work for, learned a lot, and I was very fortunate in that most of my career I was able to spend it in my hometown of Denver. But then at the end of 2015, with the downturn and the recession, my job was eliminated. And my family and I were faced with the decision of having to move to Houston in order to stay with the company or for me to leave and to do something else. Of course, at that time, with the price of oil, less than $30 a barrel, really very few jobs to be had in oil and gas, especially in Denver. And so I decided to branch out and switch roles with my wife. She was working part-time as a consultant at the time, and she went full-time, took on more hours. And then I went and started my own company to manage mineral rights and royalty interests. I really want to thank each and every one of you for listening in, taking the time to hear more about what you can expect, and for joining me on this very first episode of the Mineral Rights Podcast. And I truly hope that you find value in this podcast and that this information that I'll be talking about and covering each week will help you in managing your own mineral rights or royalty interests or answering questions you have about this industry. So if you think this podcast might help you, then I ask you to please click on the subscribe button on whatever site or device you're using to listen to this. And this type of support will allow this show to gain the recognition it needs to reach as many other mineral rights and royalty owners as possible and to help them out as well. So stay tuned, because I think you'll find the next episode really useful in decoding the sometimes confusing concept of property ownership as it relates to minerals.
Thanks so much for listening to the Mineral Rights Podcast with your host, Matt Sands. Don't forget to subscribe and share at mineralrightspodcast.com. The Mineral Rights Podcast should not be construed as investment, legal, or tax advice. All information is believed to be from reliable sources. However, we make no representation as to its completeness or accuracy.